listening to the Podcast Advertising Playbook, your resource to better understand and execute successful podcast ad campaigns. Hello and welcome to the Podcast Advertising Playbook. This is Heather Osgood. Today I am joined by Adel Saadi. He is the founder and managing director of Next Audio. Adel, welcome to the program.
Hi, Heather. Thanks for having me.
So I'm so curious to dig into this conversation because you are actually based in Dubai. And I would like to hear a little bit about your company, how you got it started, and kind of where you guys are today.
Yeah, sure. So I'm not originally from Dubai, and I think we can hear it with my accent from different places. I grew up in Belgium. I am originally from Algeria. Both of my parents are Algerian. I grew up in Belgium, the French-speaking side in Brussels, and I'm actually from the programmatic side of advertising. And I landed in Dubai in 2017. I joined the classified, largest classified in the country to manage the programmatic there. And but previously I worked on the agency side, but also on the ad tech side. I happened to be with my team in Belgium, beta tester on Spotify for programmatic with the IPG media brand. And I think it was back in 2000, I think late 2015. And then, yes, I ended up getting a new job, moving to a new city, working on the programmatic side there. And on my side, I didn't see any evolution with audio. It was just 2-3 music platforms that were getting the audio budget. So when brands were saying audio, it was automatically the 3 top music platform. But I saw all that inventory that I was consuming, that my co-founder were also consuming, but it was completely fragmented. And we decided to launch Next Podcast late 2019 to aggregate all that inventory in emerging markets and make it easy for brand and agencies to get access to audio the same way they buy display and video. By bringing everything together and making it available in programmatic, we made it super easy for them to buy it because we didn't need to have any contract in place with agencies because they can just request you a PMP or a PG deal and they can buy the inventory because they already have contract with the demand side platform. So we made it easy for them to buy it. And as we created the demand, we started onboarding more supply to be able to get more demand. So this is how it started.
Awesome. And I guess I want to know a little bit more about the audio side of things. So are you focusing on podcasts specifically, or are you doing streaming audio? I mean, what audio platforms are you really managing?
So we specialize just in audio. So it can be podcast, music on demand, web radio, audio gaming as well. We work with, I will say, the top audio gaming provider, but we aggregate everything. So when we started, we assumed that there was a massive inventory on web radio because when we discussed with broadcasters, it felt that it was actually big. But then when we saw the numbers and we compared the numbers to independent podcasters that were able to generate millions of downloads in the region, we thought maybe the potential was there. And by enabling them to get access to programmatic, they could also get access to those media budget from agencies. And we started focusing more on podcasts because of the size of the supply. So, I would say around late 2020, we started onboarding more and more podcasters. And I will say, yes, we are well known in Middle East for podcast. But I believe web radio is as premium as podcast because the content is free. It's available online, like podcasts. And if people decide to listen to web radio, because we don't force them to listen to anything, at that moment, it's the most premium inventory for them. This is what they want to listen. And sometimes, yes, we have brand and agencies that sees it a little bit less premium, but some people simply prefer web radio and they could have listened to a podcast, but they prefer web radio. So yeah, we try to also create more demand on web radio as well.
Yeah. So just so I make sure that I am thinking of the right products and not getting them, incorrect. When you talk about web radio, are you talking about like, I guess I think of like streaming audio as being like listening to music on Spotify or Pandora or Sirius or something like that. Is that web radio or is web radio something entirely different?
So web radio is radio content consumed online,
Okay,
whatever
so like a
it's
local radio station just puts
local
their
or international radio,
or
because
okay,
once you listen to radio online, you're no longer limited with what you can
bits.
listen. Yeah, exactly. So, and for the music streaming, we don't really focus on I will say the top two big music platform, uh, but we focus on the others. They already have their sales team. They are already doing very well. So what we do, we aggregate listeners across different platforms.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Interesting, interesting. And when you say web radio, are people listening through their browser? Are they listening through an app? Like, what does that look like?
It's actually both.
Hmm.
Some people, I like to use TuneIn. I use a
Tune
lot
in.
TuneIn for radio. It plays actually automatically in my car when I get in my car. But some people, so we noticed something interesting with web radio. South Africa is actually a huge market for web radio. The
Hmm.
numbers are, yes, the numbers in South Africa are quite huge. And what we notice in South Africa, we see a peak at around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning on desktop. It's a working companion. People
Mm.
open a tab, play the favorite web radio station, and they leave it on the whole day. And when you look at the number at around 4 p.m., it starts to collapse, and you see it going up on smartphones. So people listen to radio on their way home, and we understood that it's actually an audience of white collars consuming radio on their laptop during working hours. So if you package it the right way, there is a demand for that from many
Hmm.
brands
Hmm.
trying to target. um,
Yeah,
so
that's
yeah,
so fascinating. So, what exactly is the power behind audio? We in the podcast space have moved so much into talking about video. And I personally am a huge audio lover. So tell me a little bit like what makes audio stand out and makes it different than other mediums?
that makes me smile. It's a good question. I love it because I do that every day. We compete a lot with video, and it shouldn't be the case. Um, uh, I use Spotify. It's the platform I use. I have a premium account. I do consume sometimes video content on
Mhm.
Spotify on my favorite shows, but sometimes they don't upload the video version of the podcast, and it has no impact on me if I'm going to listen to the show or not. So, and I think we're putting way too much effort trying to bring video in podcast. I like to use the example, I use it very often, the example of a glass of water. We've been using that for maybe 5,000, maybe 10,000 years. We never needed to improve it. Nobody asked for it. It works just fine. And we're trying to do that with podcast and video. Nobody really asked for it. We have YouTube. We can watch it if we want, but in the for an advertiser, I personally think it can have a negative impact because a video ads, when you're watching video, is intrusive because that's the only thing you're doing. And you have that ad, and it seems that it's lasting for an eternity. Versus I'm on the treadmill in the gym, I'm driving, and I pick the podcast for 2 hours. That 30-second ads seems so small on a 2 hours content. And it doesn't bother me in terms of it is way, way less intrusive than video ads. So I believe audio gets way better conversions than video because what we're gonna start seeing with the video ads on podcast is the performance is going to go down. If you are tracking the performance of that campaign, the video campaign will actually have lower performance than audio because when we started Next Podcast, I came from a programmatic advertising background and my team as well. And we have always assumed that the click and the impression drives the conversions.
Mhm.
And when we started tracking conversions, listen through, view through, and click through. So the first campaign optimized on performance, we're trying to buy the audio impressions with a companion banner. So 10% of our inventory has a companion banner, and we're completely wrong. What we notice is actually the listen through conversions were actually way, way better than the click-through and the view-through because people put way more effort to find your brands after listening to it, and they tend to spend more time on your website than someone clicking sometimes by mistake on it. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, I would definitely push more the audio, even though we have access to video inventory. For our solution, I will push the audio because it will
Mhm.
convert. Also, an audio impression for us is almost 30 seconds. It's up to 70 words. So if you pick the right message, the right tone of voice, you'll be able to get way better results than forcing someone to watch your video ad. So
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think about Instagram because I do spend a fair amount of time on Instagram, and I would say three-fourths of the content is ads for me, now. And it's crazy how well they have me pegged, right? They know exactly what I want to buy, what I'm interested in, obviously by my click history. And there are so many times when I'm scrolling on Instagram and I think, oh, that product seems interesting. I should look at it. And I click in, but I have zero investment, right? Like I wasn't asking for that ad. I wasn't maybe even looking for that product. And it just, for whatever reason, the content that they put together grabbed my attention. But it's very easy for me to click in and then be like, I'm really not interested in that and click out. Whereas, as you said, with audio, when you hear an ad and you're actually interested, and then you take the steps to go to that site, the qualification level of that buyer is through the roof essentially, right? And that's the big difference between like it's just here and we've all done it. Like we've all accidentally clicked on something where we're like, "Oh shoot," especially banner ads on websites, right? Like those pop-up ads on websites you're constantly clicking on when you don't mean to. And so I think that I'm sure that they get more, they get maybe a higher attribution than what is actually happening. And if you look at the qualification level of the buyers, I'm sure that they're very different.
I think that's the only big difference. They are massive. They have access to a lot of data. This is how they can get you to buy something when you're not really paying attention. I think they use mainly that data to get your attention. When podcast already has your full attention, you are listening to the content of maybe your favorite content creator or maybe the most influential person, you know. Someone at Spotify we work with used that. She said that a podcaster is like your best friend who doesn't know you. And I
Hmm.
feel like that's my favorite show. So when I'm listening to content I chose to listen for 2 hours, I'm completely focused on what the person is saying. I will tend to convert much better. And especially with the host ads, they can add their own touch of humor, of their own style, and it becomes a part of the content. I use one example, and I love that one. It's a new show we brought on board in the MENA region. It's with someone called Chris Fed, super famous in the UAE. He's the famous host of Virgin Radio, very well known in the country. Launched a new show, pretty amazing guest, Steve Harvey, Martha Stewart, Craig David, who else? Tristan Thompson,
Mm-hmm.
big names. And on one episode, he started talking about Skim, the brand Skim. We don't have Skim stores in Dubai. And he convinced me to buy 20 pairs of underwear from Skims because that's the best thing he has ever bought. I've never seen it. I've never touched it. And I'm literally obsessed with it now. I need to find the store. Don't have one in Dubai. And this is what a podcast can do. I was completely focused on the discussion. And Skim came in the discussion because I think he was interviewing Tristan Thompson, who used to be married with a Kardashian, and Kim, I think it's her brand.
Hmm.
So, and this is what podcast can do, and a meta ads will never be able to do. Maybe
Right.
you can, get me to get your attention for a few seconds, but podcast is much, much stronger to catch me at the right time.
Right, right. And I mean, you obviously have a really strong programmatic background. What is your opinion on the difference between that host read ad and an announcer read programmatic style ad? Do you think that there's one that's better than the other? Is there like a certain ratio that we should be looking at?
So it depends what is your target.
Okay.
uh, with your budget as well. Programmatic is amazing for reach.
Hmm.
So you can actually reach millions of listeners across thousands of shows. run a campaign for 2 weeks. And with the tracking tool, you're able to see what is your audience. Within 2 weeks, you're able to see what are the podcasts which are performing the best. And it gives you the possibility to approach those podcasters without technically running host rate ads across hundreds of shows without really knowing what works, what doesn't work. You can do it with programmatic. You'll be able to run it across thousands of shows, identify what works, and then work with those podcasters. But host rate is something amazing. You can associate your brand with the host. And
Hmm.
what I like is when they add their own touch.
Hmm.
I love listening to Bad Friends. So yeah, when I have a tough day, I don't want to think about anything. I will put Bad Friends, and they always add their own touch of humor in it. And I will never fast forward one of their ads because I'm gonna miss a part of the show. It's just a part of the I think it's an hour or an hour and a half the show,
Hmm.
and I don't want to miss that moment as well because they are
Right.
the only funny. So and I will pay attention at your product. So it depends what you want to do. It depends what is your market. For instance, if you take market where the audience is fragmented, it's very difficult to do host rates.
Yeah.
Uh, I take, for instance, the region we manage, MENA and now APAC as well. If you take UAE and Saudi, it's two different planets. UAE, you have a pretty big population of expat. People are from everywhere. It's very
Yeah.
cosmopolitan, and we all listen to content from where we come from or from different places. English is the main language because of the expat population. And you take Saudi, which is a heavy podcast consumer, and you have great content producer in Saudi, and the population will mainly listen to local shows. So you can run host rate ad there. You'll be able to pick 5, 6 shows, and you can get a great campaign with the optimal reach in the country. You won't be able to do it in a market like the UAE. That's why we're onboarding podcasters made in UAE to produce made in Dubai content, to be able to have content people can relate to be able to do host rate campaign.
Hmm.
Belgium is the same example. We speak nearly 4 languages. There is also English, French, Dutch, and even German in the south. The population consume a lot of French content from France and Dutch content from the Netherlands. And it's very difficult to identify big shows made in Belgium, which are not news shows. News shows are quite big. So in France, you'll be able to run sponsorship with local podcasters, but on the same language in Belgium, it will be difficult. So you'll have also to see what is your market and how is the audience fragmented, and then you can decide if you do programmatic and or host rate.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. Now, I know that you mentioned that you are focusing on the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Are you buying globally? Are you buying ads in the US, Australia, UK, things like that?
Yes. So
Hmm.
we have different type of clients. So we have the regional budget, which is going to be a media agency based in the region running regional budget. So we get briefings for the whole region, MENA,
Hmm.
North Africa, and now a few markets in Southeast Asia. We are not present in Australia or New Zealand. It's already a very mature market, and I mean, with suppliers over there, and they don't need new players. Um, and so we have regional budget and we have local advertiser running global campaign. We work a lot with airlines, DMOs, and trading platform managed from the region but running global campaign. And we help them get access to listeners across the US, across LATAM, across Southeast Asia. And with our publisher partner, the agreement is we are not targeting the agencies you're working with. Our demand is 100% incremental. This is advertisers you are not dealing with. They are based abroad, and they would like to get access to listeners in the US, but also in other markets, and we facilitate that. So technically,
Hmm.
they get the sales team that work for them in emerging markets.
Hmm.
And that's what I'm doing today in Jakarta, Indonesia. We brought on board someone from a big music platform with a pretty big background in audio to help us develop Indonesia. And we're doing it in partnership with many big audio publishers because we play the role of the sales representative in those markets and we hire people who understand the market well. We're also covering different markets in the emerging countries, so we understand how it works and we play that role. We bring advertisers which are 100% incremental for those publishers, and we help them monetize those impressions in those markets which are not their priority.
Right.
Yeah, this is all. And
Interesting.
then we have also US demand. And we invested a lot the last, I will say, 2 years to
Hmm.
position our as the go-to partner for international. And I'm talking anything outside US and outside of UK, Germany, France. And we have supply across all the markets like Italy, MENA, Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe. And we help US advertisers managed by big podcast agencies in the US. We help them, we're facilitator. We help them get access to many markets where they don't have partners like the big podcast network, like you'll find in the UK, or you'll find in France, you'll find in Germany. And we play that role in the emerging markets.
Wow, that's so fascinating. I love that you're working so globally and that you are working in so many emerging markets. I think that the US is very steeped in kind of what we've done. And I'm curious, are there any lessons that you've learned working globally that you feel like we could apply in the United States that maybe we're not doing now?
You're pretty advanced market. So when we look at the numbers on terms of listenership in emerging
Mhm.
markets, many markets actually in terms of listenership are doing better than the US. In terms of hours spent per week, I'm not talking
Mhm.
about listeners. I mean, the US
Right.
is a 300 billion market. You will always have more listen. But then when you take small market like UAE and Saudi, heavy podcast consumers, when we started onboarding our first podcasters with our partner, the hosting platform, they couldn't believe the number they had on population of 36 million people. We can't really give any lessons to the US. I think you guys are doing pretty great. We like to use numbers actually from advertisers based in the US with the same advertiser when we meet them abroad. We show
Mhm.
them what brand XYZ does in the US and why not investing in podcasts in a market
Mhm.
where actually people consume more podcasts
Right.
than US. So um, yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
will.
it's interesting. So I feel like I've heard quite a bit about the Mexico market in particular, and I guess Latin America in general, that their audiences tend to be very loyal listeners and that their shows tend to be much larger. And I am curious if at the end of the day, in the US, because we are so large, there is a lot of fragmentation. And I just go back always to, the days when we had more network TV where, there were like three or four big, ABC, CBS, NBC, right? It's like everybody was consuming television through those networks. And so you could reach a really large percentage of the population because that's all there was. And now there is so much content out there that I think that for the US, um, because we are big in size and geography, I think it's easy to get a lot of that fragmentation. But if you're looking at, some place like Dubai, for instance, it's just not, you're not going to have the same level of fragmentation, especially if someone wants to listen to content that's being, created in Dubai. So I don't know if that helps with the kind of penetration that we're seeing. Do you have any thoughts around that?
So Dubai is actually extremely fragmented compared to
Oh, I would
uh,
think because of all the nationalities that have come together.
yeah, extremely cosmopolitan city.
Yeah,
Uh, this is actually even if people speak perfectly and fluently English and speak English at work the whole day. When it comes to listen to podcasts, it's a hobby. They prefer to do it in their mother tongue.
sure.
And it's why we see such a big fragmentation in the UA. That being said, the US shows are ranking top. The Mel Robbins, the Alex Cooper are ranking
Mhm.
top in the
Oh,
region.
they still do rank on top.
Yes, they
Yeah.
do across the market we're present. I mean, we're an exclusive representative of SiriusXM in MENA.
Hmm.
We present the whole catalog, and we see our show ranking top in all those markets. But there is a lot of education to do with brands. People assume
Hmm.
a lot,
Hmm.
so we like to show them like numbers and explain them what is the audience. Um, I think for you mentioned Mexico and LATAM. I think you have a couple of network focused on niche audiences.
Hmm.
LATAM in the US, which are doing actually a pretty good job. Uh, every year we get invited to Advi's dinners, and I see them, I meet them, I discuss with them, and they grow extremely fast. And every year I meet like a new network that come
Hmm.
on board, and we actually use the example. It's pretty great the way they aggregate the inventory in LATAM and also offer it in the US.
Hmm.
It's incremental reach for many brands to be able to reach very specific communities in their mother tongue. So yeah, it's something pretty cool the US does actually, and we see it with Latino content, and we are actually trying to reproduce the model for other communities
Mm.
by aggregating that content. We already have a lot of content for from LATAM, from Asia, consumed in the US. So yeah.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So, what do you think are some big mistakes that marketers make when it comes to podcast advertising? Is it that they have like certain misconceptions about podcast ads, or they're looking to track something that, isn't ideal or what they should be tracking?
It's a good question. We see it very often. People assume a lot.
Hmm.
It's not something visible. I heard it so many times. I don't see anyone listening to podcast in the office. Okay, how would you be able to see what people are listening? And I heard that thing a few times. Um, so what we like to do is to show studies, show numbers, run surveys. Numbers don't lie.
Hmm.
And then it's the adoptions of new tools. You have an industry mainly focused on display and video. Most of the tracking tools and brand safety tools they are using are built for display and video and can't be used for audio. And it's quite difficult to get an advertiser to adopt new tools. I mean, if you take Podscribe, Magellan, or Claritas,
Hmm.
uh, those tools works pretty well for many advertisers in the US. And if you see their spend, it's literally doubling, tripling every year. And they start using it mainly for lower funnel because it actually converts very well. Many
Right.
brands think audio is for upper funnel. It's awareness, so you have to
Hmm.
compete with the other big player. But what we see is actually the numbers we have are excellent. It's we have many campaign where our podcast campaign are the best channel the advertiser is using, but getting them to use like a tool like Podscribe, it's actually very difficult. It takes a
Hmm.
lot of effort. But we saw big differences when the CEO gets involved. We noticed that within the company, many advertisers, people have different KPIs. A marketing department will have, for instance, this tool
Yeah,
is
no
used for
problem.
content tracking. They use it for
Hmm.
display and video. And when we introduce them Podscribe, no, I have to be able to see the numbers in my tool, even if the tool is not built for it.
Oh,
If you sit with the CEO, the CEO will run a test. He sees that actually it's driving more revenue. Okay,
uh-huh.
he's going to adopt a new tool.
Right.
And we saw advertiser, spending 5-digit budget and going to 7 digits. We have just got the confirmation from an advertiser that started with audio asset test 2 years ago, and they reached the 7 digit. They just confirmed 7 digit for the next quarter. I mean, it's an emerging market
Hmm.
advertiser because the CEO and his CMO are involved. They believe in new tools, and but other companies works in a different way, and I don't see it in my tool. It doesn't exist. So,
Right.
but we keep pushing and trying again, again, and again. So,
Yeah, yeah. So, uh, in terms of the way that they're measuring results, I know you are saying that it's difficult to get them to use pixels. How are you tracking results? What does that look like for measurement?
we use different type of measurement. It depends if it's an
Hmm.
upper funnel campaign or lower funnel campaign.
Sure.
We use conversion tracking, web, and the top three conversion tracking audio company are all compatible with all the MMP.
Mhm.
Adjust, AppsFlyer, Coacheva. So that makes it easy. But where we struggle a bit is to get the clients to adopt those new tool and believe in those numbers.
Right.
So, 'cause you run a test campaign, numbers are great. They can see that they have lower cost per conversion with podcast than the other channel, and they won't believe the number. So you involve the company, the Podscribe or Magellan. In that case, it was mainly Podscribe, and Podscribe will explain how it works. They explain the integration they have with Adjust, and the number they see are actually accurate. They are an independent third-party conversion tracking provider, and very often it is not enough.
Mhm.
So Yeah, and you have to try again with different ways. We try to work directly with the MMPs to enable
Mhm.
clients to be able to see those numbers in the report. And for upper funnel, we like to work with a company called Epidemics. We've been working with them
Mm.
since 2020. I mean, they are great for brand lift study for audio. They have a great methodology. They're able to target, they don't work with panels. They work with real people who got exposed to the audio ads. They
Mm.
guarantee us a certain number of respondents, but they also guarantee a control group of about 300 people to be able to compare the uplift in terms of brand likability, brand intent, and they are completely independent. So we usually offer the brand lift study to our clients. So there is a risk on our end if the campaign doesn't perform. We pay for it, and the client won't work with us. But most of the time, it actually shows good results. What we like with the tool, when it shows bad results, it explains you why. It tells you, is it the creative?
Oh,
It will show you that people are actually getting confused with your competitor. So they remember the ads.
huh.
They tell us that because they play them the ad. So what they do is they retarget you, and you get exposed to a survey form when you are on another app reading the news on your phone. It's a non-branded survey, so you're not able to see that it's the brand that is doing it, but they're independent from the publisher. You might have seen it on Meta and on YouTube, but it's YouTube that provides you the survey. Here, it's an independent partner, and they're able to tell you that okay, they remember your ad, but your message was actually the script was wrong because they couldn't associate your ads with your brand and they thought it was your competitor. So,
Right.
which helped us get another campaign and fix the script. So, yeah, great solution. Happy
Yeah.
Demix.
Yeah. So it's called Hapidemics.
Happy Demix. It's a French-based company. They have a
Ah,
team in the US now. It's
okay.
actually very credible because we worked with other brand leaf study companies, which are extremely expensive,
Hmm.
and Happy Demix came with a different methodology, and they're able to reach people who got exposed to the audio ads and provide you a full dashboard with a very detailed report. So yeah, and pretty cool team as well. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't heard of them. I'll have to check them out. I know we need to start wrapping it up. And so I'm curious, what predictions do you have for specifically the podcast advertising industry? I guess I'm curious, do you think that, we're growing? Are we going to have more content? How is AI going to play? Yeah, what predictions do you have?
Um, I mean, they are very positive. We think it's going to grow when
Mhm.
advertisers adopting new tool because the number we see on our so we have our own tool. We're releasing a new tool. We will be using mainly audio to promote the tool because we've done it in the past and it converts pretty well. So will it make sense for us to sell you a solution that we don't use ourselves?
Mhm.
Might take a bit of time for advertisers to see that it works well, but many brands like BetterHelp, Amazon, Shopify actually have great results and they're increasing their spend on podcasts and for a good reason. You mentioned AI. I came across a network a few weeks ago. I was quite amazed with what they did. So we had a call schedule. They had a daily show and
Mhm.
short show. The numbers were actually pretty good. And before the call, we just checked how many shows they have. And I see a whole page of shows. And I was like, wow, that's. And then I see actually in the bottom of the page that they have many pages. They have 600 shows, all built with AI. They managed to build a show for each city in the US, each sport teams, literally each topic with a focus mainly on English-speaking countries. And there is a demand for it. They do 10 million downloads per month, which is huge, across different markets. Everything is automated. So what I like is the host is actually a podcaster himself. He used his voice. He cloned his voice. He used
Ah,
personality and his style. So it's a real person who's actually speaking. The difference is they aggregate content from different sources for
right.
each city, each sport teams, and every day you get a daily news summary, which is completely automated, and they have 600 podcasts generating millions of downloads on autopilot. And they're actually really good with metadata, the
Mm,
descriptions of the show, because they know that actually people are searching for that. And
right.
uh, and yeah, without any promotion. And yeah, with the first call with them, I was pretty excited actually. I was like,
Hmm.
this is brilliant what you did.
Hmm.
So there is a way to actually use AI AI is going to solve also a lot of problem with the creatives. We use
Hmm.
it more. Many advertisers who can't afford to run audio ad because they don't have a creative agency, a copywriter,
Right.
they don't know how to produce an ad,
Hmm.
have access to it for free now. They can
Hmm.
produce amazing ads in literally 30 seconds. We have a self-serve solution for that as well. And
Hmm.
it's just prompt and it's free. And it's going to open the door to thousands of new advertisers who couldn't do it before. And I
Right.
think AI could actually do that, bring me
Hmm.
thousands of new small advertisers who could run local campaigns to promote their business locally with audio and compete with big brands without having to have a media agency or creative agency. So I'm quite optimistic.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's very, very fascinating. And I know that there's been a lot of kind of backlash from the podcast creator side of the industry where they're very anti-AI, but I think that there's a lot of uses for it. And the way that I look at it is, you know, when we started printing copies of, posters or artwork, nobody said, well, I don't want an original anymore because I think the poster's, better than the original. Like, I still think that there's a place where obviously our creators can continue to create and be who they are. That doesn't mean that we can't also have AI generated content that can't be serving a purpose. And frankly, I mean, I think people like to talk about like AI slop and all that. And if it is bad, then no one's going to listen to it, right? Like, and if it's good, then people will. I mean, so we'll have to see how that unfolds for sure.
It's up to the listener to decide. I mean, it's something we discuss with
Yeah,
brands very. They want to decide what is premium and what is not premium. If there is
sure.
a someone interested in that, so why
Hmm.
would you,
Hmm.
yeah, why would you remove it from your media plan? So,
Right, right, for sure. Well, Adele, if people are interested in connecting with Next Audio, where's a good place for them to go?
nextaud.io, which is technically Next Audio,
Hmm.
or on LinkedIn, they can reach out to me or my co-founder Lamia and Marwan. So, yeah,
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for being on the show today.
thank you so much for having me. That was a pleasure. And yeah, hope to see you soon in
Yeah, for
New
sure.
York, London. Or
Yes, yes, hopefully in New York. Thank you for listening to the episode. I hope that you have enjoyed it. It is really interesting to kind of take a look at what is happening more globally and exciting, as always, to see what is on the horizon for podcasting. So thanks for listening, and we will catch you again next time.
Hi, Lauren Passell, CEO of Tink Media here. I'm interrupting this show to invite you to submit your podcast to this year's International Women's Podcast Awards, the podcast awards show for women that is also proudly queer and trans inclusive. There are 11 categories that focus on moments like moment of absolute honesty and moment of behind the scenes brilliance. We are not looking for downloads, just your creativity. Submissions are $50 and we have a scholarship program. So head on over to tinkmedia.co/awards for more info or to submit. You have until July 31st. tinkmedia.co/awards.
Thank you for listening to the Podcast Advertising Playbook, your source to a better understanding of the podcast advertising industry.